Good afternoon, all, and thank you so much for coming back and joining us on the Spring in Nature Black Employees Network speaker series. I'm delighted to say that we are joined here today by Celeste Warren. Celeste, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. I work at Merck, which is a pharmaceutical company. It's based in New Jersey in the United States, but it is a global company in over 120 different countries. I currently lead Merck's Global Diversity and Inclusion Center of Excellence. When I think about Merck, how we approach diversity and inclusion, it's fundamental. It's fundamental to our organization. It's one of our basic values and standards. We look at it through four areas. One is at the very basics, the foundational element, strengthening our foundational element, which is very, very importantly, we have to make sure that our employee base mirrors the diversity of our patient base, because we're not going to be able to fulfill our mission of saving and improving lives of our patients if our employees don't reflect that diversity. The second piece is you want a diverse workforce, but you got to make sure that you're maximizing the diversity in your workforce. So you got to create an inclusive environment around your employees, so they're able to feel energized, they're able to feel empowered, they're just able to do what we want them to do. And so everyone has a stake in creating that inclusive culture that we want surrounding our employees. The third piece is, we're not a non-profit, we're a for-profit organization. And so we have to look at our business and integrate D&I into our business so we can be adding value to our business performance. Because I do believe that at that intersection of diversity and inclusion and business performance, you do create a competitive advantage for the company. Mm-hmm. And then the last piece is it's not enough that we're just doing things inside our own four walls and feeling all good about what we're doing inside, but we have to look outside of our four walls and look at look at the organization, look at the culture, the business landscape, and say, how are we contributing to it just being a better world?
Could you give me like the three most gratifying things that you've accomplished within your career? And also, and if that obviously stems into what you've done with Merck, then yeah, please let us know. I want people to get a real understanding.
One of the greatest satisfactions that I get is when that light bulb goes off and you can see it, and you see someone saying, oh, well, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to really contribute here, because we need people to not just be feeling a certain way, we need people to be actioning and doing things and really helping us to drive D&I across not just our organization, but other organizations as well. And sometimes people don't know what they need to do. And I love having those conversations where I'm talking to someone and sort of opening up their eyes around what they could be doing, and being a role model for my children. And so they can see success, so they can see opportunities where my parents and my grandparents maybe didn't see those opportunities because of the time that it was. But I want to make sure that my children and that generation, they have opportunities.
What was your experience with diversity and inclusion coming up in the industry in comparison to you obviously leading the charge within the industry? What do those two look like, and are they miles apart?
I grew up with a father who was the first Black teacher in the area, in the region. And for me, seeing the world through his eyes and through my mom's eyes, who was there to support him, it was always a part of me, because I saw his struggles, I saw his successes, but I saw all of that firsthand, and I saw how it impacted him as a Black man. And so when I started working, I was my first career was I was a reporter, and I was one of the first Black female sports writers and sports reporters in a lot of different areas. And so there was a lot of similarities from that perspective. And then fast forward to having this role of leading diversity and inclusion across the enterprise. I approached it from the standpoint of change management. So you understand, you do the inventory and assessment of where the organization is and where you want it to be, and then putting those plans in place to get there. And it's not an easy path. And then part of that change management is also my personal journey. When I first got into this role, I wasn't an expert in the field. I was a novice. I have so much to learn. When you don't learn, you're stagnant. And I don't like being stagnant. I don't like status quo. I think we should always be journeying and pushing towards something. And in my case, it's pushing toward an organization and a world where people want to live in and they feel proud to live in. We have a lot of work to do, but I'm charged with, and I believe my purpose is to affect and impact change. And until I leave this earth, that's what I'm going to be doing.
From a standpoint outside of your remit, what things would you like to see change within the industry for the betterment of the next generation of Black people in your career?
I want to see a day where the Fortune 500 doesn't have just 20% female CEOs or 5% CEOs of color, or even less CEOs who are in the LGBTQ community or of different faith or whatever, or with disabilities. But it's normal. That's what I want to see. I want to see that representation rise up at the upper echelons of the organizations.
Do you have any role models that have inspired your career?
I think the person who most inspired me and still does is my parents. I mean, I have to say that, like, I saw firsthand from my father and my mother of what it means being Black in a certain period of time, and having to have to struggle and work hard to be able to get as far as he did.
You've been there, you've done it, you've done amazingly well with where you've come. What advice would you give?
I think there's three things. One is you have to stay relevant. So you have to basically make sure that you are staying on top of your field, whatever your field might be, whatever your discipline might be, and not so much looking at it as to what people need today, but what do they need tomorrow, 5 years out, 10 years out, what skills, what capabilities. So staying relevant. Second thing is stay supportive. We need to be supportive of each other. Inspiring each other. That becomes really, really important, especially on those dark days, those days of frustration, those days when you're not feeling like you're being valued. And then the last thing I think is stay in the fight. Don't give up. You're going to have frustrating days. You're going to have days where everything's not going to go your way. You're going to get bad news, but stay in the fight. Because if you're not going to stay in it for yourself, stay in it for the others. All the others of those that are coming after you, those that you're laying that path for. But you got to stay in the fight. You got to stay in there.
I can't believe I've come to the end. Thank you so much for your contribution to the Springer Nature Black Employees Network Speaker Series.
Well, Marlene, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk with you and chat with you about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I just hope that there's one little nugget that people can take and move forward and help us in this area. We could use all the help we can get. So like I said, stay in the fight.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.